we think that the certification is a process where someone actually learns about their own ignorance. So that's why we are doing it. We think it's important that in a knowledge society that people know more than the random about the world. But when we have measured, because we have a test that we call the Gapminder test, which consists of 13 questions, and when we try what people know, it's A, B, and C questions. It turns out that people are significantly have worse results than random. And what does that mean? It means that if it was random, they would, without reading the questions, without reading the results, just picking what A, B, and C on the questions, they should have a result around 33% because it's three alternatives, right? But they don't, so they get a much worse results. They score around 10% instead of 33%. And how come is that? That cannot be lack of information. It is having preconceived ideas about the world, which makes us guess in a directed way where we think the world is actually worse than it is. And when we have that, it's pretty hard to actually make smart decisions, I would guess, if we're completely wrong about the world. And if we think the world is so much worse than it actually is, then there's a risk that we might feel that it is not worth doing things because it's so bad anyways. But when we look at the global trends and the global proportions over time, we can see that a lot of things have actually improved over time. Well, I think it's interesting. It seems like the media is not uninformed because we have actually done the same test in different media conferences and they get similar results to the general public. No differences, which means very often when I hear people complaining that the media is trying to cheat us or trying to fool us or trying to make us understand the world in a certain way, I would say with those results, it tells me that they don't know more about the world than the others. And most likely, I would think that most journalists actually got the job because they really wanted to do something good. There might be a few who had different ideas, but that you will find in all occupations. So I think the journalists are doing their best, but as they are as misconceived ideas as others, they might probably do the same bad conclusions as the rest of us. Very often. We want to reach the general public, basically everyone, because we think we have to raise the sort of bar for what we know about the world. I think it's important that we have a somewhat understanding about the global proportions and the global trends. Doesn't mean that we have to learn everything, but if we could get the big picture somewhat together, I think that would actually make a big difference. You can see a lot of data coming together. You can see a lot of already public data being visually understood in comparisons, data-driven tools. So we have a lot of data-driven tools. So you can play with them and you can actually pick the data you're interested in. If you're interested in Austria, for instance, you can highlight Austria and see what has happened over time to a lot of different indicators. So what is the health, the economy, the education, what is happening, broadly compared to other countries. And you can look at age distribution and income distribution. And you could also look, unfortunately we have no homes in Dollar Street from Austria, which we would need as well, but you can at least see other homes. You can go into homes and see what everyday life is like for normal people from homes on different income levels in 52 countries at this point. But we need more homes, so please volunteer and bring it on. It's a combination. We do have some professional photographers who work with us, but we also invite volunteers. So we want to create a community where we are actually sharing data with each other to help the others understand us as well as we can understand them. So that is what we're doing. And on our website you can also find videos and other material and teacher resources, how you can use the material in schools and so on. If we charge, it will only reach a small portion of the population, and I think information should be free. I think that's a decent baseline. I would say it's actually both. It's a lot of teachers who are using our tools regularly because they are free for anyone to use however they like, which is a pretty good thing for teachers because they cannot afford to buy expensive teaching materials. But we also have a demand from businesses because in basically all business have an R&D department and they have a limited budget to understand the world, and what we're doing freely, I mean, is trying to bring the global comparisons and the global proportions and the global trends together and make them easy to understand. So it makes sense even within corporations to make decisions about the future. And of course they are free to go and browse and use our tools without talking to us, but sometimes they actually want to talk to us too because that saves them time. I think when we look at the population trends into the future, and we can see that now the biggest majority are much poorer than it's expected to be in the future. Not only is it going to be much more people, it's also going to be people that are much closer to our living condition standards up here, which probably means, and I'm just guessing, since it's going to be loads and loads and loads of more people from Africa and from Asia being more wealthy than they are today, and they are probably want to travel on vacation. So I would guess that in places like Austria, where you have a pretty old, the population is pretty old, you don't have very many children, and you have a lot of nature that is extremely beautiful, I would guess this will be the ski resort for people from Africa and Asia in the coming years. So you should probably get ready and prepare.